brand spanking new, fresh out the box AMD 65. This is a brand new gun and it's broke. This is a Crytek. This is what I'm working on currently. I've stopped for the time being because it's night time and I'm going to finish it up tomorrow. This came in for a general service. The power is getting a bit low. For some reason he says it drops down a little bit inconsistent, so we're going to sort that out. I changed out his rubber to a maple leaf rubber, and the power, when it's hopping a 2, is around the 260, 255 mark. So there is an issue somewhere. But that is not what we're talking about today. I want to put a video up that actually helps people. So, I'm about to give some in-depth ideas for you, and I'm going to do some really stupid shit. And if you don't agree with what I'm saying, this video is not for you. If you see yourself as a bit of a tech, or if you are a Airsoft tech, this video is not for you. If you just want to argue, this video is not for you. This video is for the people I care the most about, and those are the players trying to get into this sport. Everyone's videos show these amazing fucking builds, and so much of it is horse shit. Most guns do not last forever. My guns have lasted for 30 years, some of them, but that is because they barely get used. Anything you use will get wear. So I'm going to go through a few little things for you that might surprise you. You might disagree with it, and obviously I won't give a single fuck if you do disagree, because this is trying to explain to people exactly why that fucking shit happened to your gun. First things first, plastic tooth pistons. I always go with full steel racks because generally speaking people want to have that reliability. You can put a full steel rack straight in your gun, probably be fine. But why the fuck has it got plastic teeth on it? Why a lot of standard guns got plastic teeth? This one here has got a little bit of wear to the back, but it's nothing terrible. This came out of a G&G that I was doing for somebody. I did the full works to it, make it happy. It was a SIG. And the idea is that he wanted the gun to be as fail-safe as possible, just to prolong the life. Now, the way Mr. Piston works is Mr. Gear comes along and he grabs Mr. Piston and he turns her over. Now, G&G always have a tooth missing. That's good. That makes perfect sense because they're running at a different power and at a different cyclic rate to what a standard TM gun is. And obviously TM invented this. They made this happen. No one else did it. They did this design and this design. Now you might find that some ALE issues occur. Now, if it grabs it perfectly there, that's exactly what you want. Off it goes. Yeah? Sometimes it might grab it at a slight angle. It might just grab it a little bit off like that. Probably won't do you any harm. Now, the only guns, as you've probably heard me fucking moan up before, that really do have AOE issues at the box that you can pretty much guarantee are Classic Army and A&K, GPMGs, fucking M60s, 249s. Because that gearbox is fucking atrocious. It's a great design, but it eats pistons. Those gearboxes gobble more pistons than my ex-fiance gobbles cock. It's pretty harsh. And that is because the AOE is way off. It's just so way off and it's grabbing things all wrong. Now, why have they got plastic teeth? It's simple. You want that to break. You want your piston to break. In a perfect world, nothing breaks. But you want your piston to break because if that doesn't give, that might. Or your bushings might. Or your gearbox casing might. If this strips and breaks, all you've got to do is whip it apart, clean the bits of plastic out, get a new piston in there and carry on. If your gears go, or your bushings go, or anything else, bye, you've got a problem. Because now you've got to spend more money, because gears are more expensive than a piston, and you've got to sit there and re-shim and do that other nonsense. There's another reason why these are made of plastic. And that is because if the gear isn't quite biting it perfectly, it will wear itself a surface that it can then grab onto. If you look at the teeth, they're little pyramids. Look at that. Little pyramids. And that is so as it turns, it can impart pressure with the least amount of resistance. That is why if you set your AoE so that it grabs bang on up here, you might find that as you get further forward, although these are perfectly set, you know, you'd think that it's grabbing here, so it must be able, no matter where it is, if it's grabbing there, it must be able to grab these teeth. Well, if it's grabbing it slightly wrong, if it's grabbing it there, grabbing it further back, you might find that as it comes forward, it starts to grab these teeth. And then you wear those out, which is why people, generally speaking, if you remove that tooth there and you do correct your AoE, you are better putting in a slightly bigger spring and removing a couple of 3 of these teeth. Simply put, I would love it if everyone understood and just had a plastic piston, and when it goes, you get a new one in there. But they don't, they want long-term reliability. Now you've got to remember that these things are basically model kits. Way back when these fucking things came out, you'd just buy it, and when it broke, because they always did, there was no internet, there was no one to ask, you had to take it apart and you had to fix it. And, you know, just trying to find a piston back then was fucking near on impossible. So what are you going to do? You have to learn. This is how I've collected my knowledge, and that is that shit breaks. And I'm not used to having all these places that sell you this amazing upgraded thing, because every airsoft gun that I fucking had was shit. They all broke eventually. And that's just the way it is. Now, it's the same now. You've got to think of these as model kits. It's basically a Rolf Harris model kit. More fiddly than you fucking think. You can't view this as something that you can, you know, depend your life on. That will never fail, will never go wrong, because honestly it doesn't exist. It really doesn't exist. There's only a couple of guns that I own that I go, yep, I know that when I pull this gun out, it's going to fire. I know that it will happen. This gun, the Crytek, do you know what? Yeah, it sounds like a bag of shit when it fires, and it's way too expensive, but it's pretty dependable. It will fire. It's horrible to mess with, and it's noisy and clunky, and for a gun so expensive, you would not accept that much play in it. Look how hard this pin is to push in. Right? So when that's in, you should be expecting to have this thing with zero fucking wobble. Look at that. The whole receiver. Now, if you're going to say, the fucking bits are fucking... I know. But that doesn't stop the fucking gearbox being held in place. It doesn't stop the fact that this is held solid. Look at that. If you're a Crytek owner, you just have to accept that. You just have to accept it. Because that is the design of the gun. But you want your piston to fail, because it's cheap and easy to replace. It's that simple, boys and girls. Why the fuck is my gun getting so hot? That's a good one. Why is it that my pistol grip is getting really fucking hot? Well, numerous factors. Every single Burke will tell you, okay, if your motor's getting hot, you should check your shimming. They're not wrong. If your gun is so badly shimmed and the gears are so tight that resistance is stopping this, it's pushing this way or pushing that way, there's going to be resistance, it's going to get warm. That is not the only reason, and it's certainly not the main reason. Why does this get hot? First things first, active braking MOSFETs. These things, you turn your motor on and it spins and it slows down. This is my tester motor. This is what I use to test certain tasks that I do. When I plug it in, it spins. Ready? There it was, done. Spins. You heard it go woo! Start it up, continued, and slowed down. When you've got some active brake involved, that will go start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. And that is putting the brushes through a little bit of torment. They don't like it very much. Your motor brushes are definitely going to be a little bit pissed off at you that that is happening. But that is something you must expect, because you're making your motor do something that it's not meant to do. Why do these have MOSFETs that only break a tiny amount? Why is it that a lot of these guns, the Spetzer arms range that come with the XASR, why the fuck is that in there? Why don't they put a better MOSFET in there? Why? Because of the extra strain it puts on the motor. That simple. You will burn this out faster. Now, depending on the motor you use, it's not about cost. There are some very expensive motors that are wank, and there are some very cheap motors that are very good. So, I don't like SRC. SRC are fucking terrible at everything they do. They are fucking terrible. Their motors are fucking excellent. They are so bastard torquey, and they just keep going and going and fucking going. It's like the fucking Energizer Bunny on fucking heroin. It just keeps going and going and going, even though it should be fucking dead. But it keeps on going. It's a good motor. It's a cheap motor. What label has your motor got on it? 20k. Cool. I've got another Crytek motor here. 30k. Torque motor. You can feel the difference. That's going to be less torquey than this one. That is harder to spin. Mainly because there's no fucking head on it, but you get the idea. The torqueer it is, the harder it is to spin, magnets and yada yada yada. But, why is it getting so hot? I don't have any active braking on. I'm using a Titan and I've dialed it down a little bit. You might not have the active brake on at all. Why is the gun getting so hot? Why is that motor fucking getting so hot that I can't use it? Well, it's simple. What happens when you are sat at home? Okay? You go to bed, you turn your light off. You get up in the morning, you turn your light on. Now what happens at home when you get your light switch and you go, you blow your bulb, because you are making energy that should be travelling or not travelling. You're making it go all over the fucking place. It's like, so if you start doing that with your light bulb, yeah, it's gonna blow, and you'd expect it to blow. If you blew your light bulb up, you'd go, yeah, I expected that. Now if the light bulb doesn't blow, maybe the entire fucking fuse board does in your house. So what do? You just don't fucking do that with the switch. AEGs, they've got a switch. You turn it on, you turn it off. If you're using full auto, you use less energy because the motor starts up, and once it's started up and it fired up, it will then keep going and going and going until you let go of the trigger, and then it will wind down. Active braking starts it faster and slows it down faster. But in full auto, it's still going. Now flick it to semi-auto and think about your light switch. You are creating a problem. You are creating energy. You are creating heat. So, actually, the best way to use your gun is in full auto and short bursts. Now, you think with long bursts, it would be more energy efficient, and it is. But long bursts will fuck you up. Your gun doesn't like long bursts. It hates it, in fact. Now, this motor, no MOSFET attached whatsoever, but I've got a really big battery, a fucking huge battery. Ready? Now, do you hear that noise? You got that, right? If that was your gun firing, making that noise, and you put that video on the internet, someone is going to say to you, oh, your shimming's bad. Maybe it's just your motor. That, guess what, is hot. it's hot. You can feel the heat coming off of it. And why is that? Because it's creating energy. With energy comes heat. So now it's hot. Now imagine it's not just freely spinning. That actually burnt me. What a cunt. Right, so fucking twat. So that wasn't touching the gears at all. Wasn't touching the gears. So that, by definition, should be perfectly cold, right? Wrong. It fucking burns. Because this has created energy. Why did the motor get hot? Because it was on for too long and too much juice went through it. Let's take something like a LiPo. This is a 30C discharge rating. Although this is a 12 volt, and this is 11.1 volts, it's comparable in voltage. The amps, I don't know which have more amps coming out of it, I honestly don't. I don't understand a lot of that stuff. But what I can tell you, that is much noisier now. That one there is louder and noisier than this one here. So, what have we learned? What's going on there is this battery, there's more volts going through it, the amount of juice going through it is more. Okay, so what's going to happen is, I want to get my beer in my glass. I'm going to pour my beer from this can, from a little hole, into this glass. Who else needs a wee now? Never worked in a pub in my life. Look at that. Look at the fucking head on that. That makes sense, right? Out of a small hole, into there. Nice and easy, right? Would I then attempt to pour from this very, very large, wide rim at the same height into that can? Would I fuck? And why? Because that amount of liquid simply will splash all over the place, and I can pour this faster than I can pour this. And inevitably, too much liquid is going to go in there. Think about that. Think about that for a second. C ratings on LiPos. The C rating, if you imagine that it is a big old glass, it's a bucket, and you're pouring from one bucket to the other. If this bucket is smaller than this bucket, there's going to be spillage, right? There's your LiPo shit going on. People say, yep, the gun is 11.1 volt ready. Now, that's not always true. There are people all the time saying, no, every gun now is designed to use 11.1s, and those people are talking out their fucking arses. Shut the fuck up. You're wrong. People who do LiPo conversions. People pay extra for a LiPo conversion. It's energy. A LiPo conversion. What am I converting? There's nothing. Shut the fuck up. You're wrong. So, what we do have to think about, that is still really hot. Not quite as hot as it was, but I'm not going to grip it for too long just in case. But I'm still burnt. Look at that. Still fucking burnt. Now, actually quite hurts a lot. I'm not going to lie, it's a bit painful. So, there's your C ratings. That is how the energy works. The gauge of wire. Let's look at the gauge of wire on this gun. 2mm. There we go, 2mm. What gauge of wire is on here? 2.4mm. So you can basically deduce that more energy can travel down there than it can down there. So what happens if those two wires... And the answer is, I don't fucking know. Because I don't know everything. I don't. There are some things I just don't know. So if someone has the answer to that, let me know. Because I want to know. But my assumption is, if those wires suddenly get shorter after having to have an electrical connection made here, so that plugs into there, if those wires then get thinner, all that energy that's travelling down here surely would then equate to running through thinner wires. It's going to create some kind of blockage. You know? That just makes sense in my head. If I'm wrong, tell me. But I'm quite sure I'm right. We'll see. That is why your motor's getting hot. if you've done yourself a DSG build and you're doing the I only use it on semi-auto, I've only got a DSG in 11.1 and all this stuff because I want the semi-auto trigger response. I never even use it on full. Until you're trying to make a video for YouTube and you're pointing out that someone's cheating. And then you fucking turn it over, don't you pricks? Anyway, so, if you're rocking one of those guns, remember my MP5 video I did a little while back? I'm not going to link it, just go and fucking find it. I built a wanker gun. And it was fine on the 11.1, but on the 7.4, the full auto was literally, a third slower. But the semi-auto, the trigger response was exactly the fucking same with pre-cocking. And the motor didn't get as hot, because there's less juice going into the gun. Make sense? So, there we go. Why is your gun getting hot? Because you're pulling the trigger really fast. Why is my gun getting hot? Because a lot of juice is flowing through it. Now what happens if I were to take this item now and run it on a much smaller battery? 11.1, 1200 milliamp, 20C. So by definition, this shouldn't get as hot. Ready? You can hear it's nowhere near as loud. But there's noise from the motor. It's making noise. There are rumblings. It's not getting as hot. Because there is less energy travelling in it, thus it's cycling slower, thus it's cooler. However, I can hold that. That's not burning me. But you're not just firing the gun like that, you're holding on to it. You're insulating it. So what happens if I then take this lower C rating, lower milliamp 11.1 and I hold it? And remember, this is a constant energy running through. Now I can feel it getting warm, because it's insulating. Yep. Twat! Didn't use that finger again. So, still with the burn marks. Look at that, look. Dick. What a dick. So, why is my gun getting hot? Yeah, your shimming could be bad, but you know what? Your motor gets hot. Now imagine that you're using that and flicking it on and off with semi-auto or short bursts. So surely, long bursts of full auto are the way to go, right? Surely that's the way it is. Now I'm using this battery because if I run it flat, it doesn't matter. Alright, that's why I'm using this battery. But, ready? And there it was. Something has just happened. There it is. That wasn't even a very long burst, was it? But for argument's sake, let's try a different one. 1G36. There she is. This is one of the rental guns we use, so this is in here for repairs because guess what? Guns break. So, full auto. That survived. That is too long of a burst, and already I can feel heat through the pistol grip. You want to find the most optimal battery for you and your gun. That's what you want, the best battery for you and your gun. Just because I must run 11.1. Well, do you know what? You don't need to. We've done 12 volt. Here's the 11.1 LiPo again. Yeah? Let's go with the smaller LiPo. Less C rating, less milliamp, Still 11.1 volts. Slower. If you can run your gun reliably on 7.4, do that. Why the fuck isn't my gun working? Well, who's to say? Up inside here is your hop unit. What happens with your gearbox? Well, you plug your battery in, you pull the trigger, everything moves. Your nozzle here moves backwards and forwards on the tappet plate, which is attached to the gear and rubber. Okay, there it is. Now what happens if you get a jam? Well, it's simple. The nozzle can't move. This nozzle would be all the way forward, and it's in the hop unit. So the BBs go into the hop unit, and they sit in the hop unit. And then, if one gets clogged, and one backs up into it, and then another, your nozzle can't move. See that moving? So, what you've got is a BB sits inside it, then another one, then another one. What happens if I can't make that nozzle move? What if there's something inside there, like a blockage of BBs? What would happen? Well, I'm not going to put BBs in to test it. But what I am going to do is I'm going to block it manually. There's too many BBs sat in here and it's blocked. What happens if it can't move? This happens. That is the sound of a piston being chewed to fuck by the gears. That survived. Now hear how that changed? It went from a clogged sound to a crunchy clog sound. Ready? When you try and clear a clog by pulling the trigger. Let that sink in for a moment. Have something funny. So now the plastic piston in here is fucked. But that's okay, because we can change it out with a plastic piston. You can pick up plastic pistons at, trade price, wholesale prices, for a couple of quid a piece. And for the rental guns, that's what you want. Because although you'd like to have guns that are 100% reliable, it's better during the day if one of the customers goes, "Oh, Marshall, there's something wrong with my gun." And you go, "Oh, okay, here's a new gun." You're not going to sit and fix it on the spot. Plastic pistons. That's what they're for. That is repairable within 10 minutes. Believe it or not, 10 minutes I can have that going again with a new plastic piston. Why did it clog? Why did the BBs clog inside? Okay, that's a BB. Why did it clog? Well, numerous reasons. Have you been maintaining your hot rubber? Have you been lubricating it properly? However you choose to lubricate it, I don't give a fuck whether you do or don't. If you don't lubricate and you don't agree, just fuck off somewhere else. All you guys that actually care about looking after your shit, why did we lube it? Well, you lubricate it to make sure that BBs can pass through it. One BB. That can't hurt you rolling over your hand, can it? It can't. Would you put that BB in the gun and fire it? BB travels down the barrel. Would you let that BB go across your skin? Would you like to see what happens when a BB just goes across your skin? Watch this. Ready? When it goes just across skin. That happens. That didn't hit me directly. That skimmed across me. And it's torn through me. And it's friction. That's not a direct hit, it's going over me. It's sliding across me. So, What happens when Mr. BB goes through Mr. Rubber? That's just one BB doing that. Just one BB. What's going to happen? Heat, friction, impact energy. Now what happens if you put down a long burst? A very long burst. This all depends on your grade of hot rubber. This one, it's a ZCI as far as I'm aware, and I wouldn't fucking use it. Just by looking at it, I can tell I wouldn't use that. So, what happens? The BB passes through it once. It does that to the rubber. Yeah? You put 3 or 4 or 5 in a short burst through. Imagine 3, 4 or 5 of that. Now you put down 10, 15, 20. Do you think it's going to travel through that better, lubricated, or not lubricated? But no matter how much lube, if you flood that with lube, you've still got the issue whereby, eventually, that lube's going to wear out. Friction, heat. That is how you get clogs. This is a decent kind of BB, this is alright. I found the Valken BBs are quite good as well. Most BBs come from the same place, they just go through different refinements and different polishing, right? So, now you imagine that you've put 20 in one burst through it. I'm going to talk about a high-speed gun, we're talking something like this. 20 in a row. Can you imagine the heat building up? What happens to rubber when it gets warm? And then what happens to rubber when it gets hot? It melts. That's what happens. So what's going to happen? It's going to clog. You should be lubricating your gun and maintaining it after every day of play. There is no predetermined amount of rounds that are specific to any kind of hot rubber. You might get a hot rubber, like some of my guns. This one here predates Hop Up. Completely predates it. Okay, this is made by Yonezawa. The date is on the gun, 1989. 1989. It's an old gun, but it still has rubber O-rings. And they still work. They still hold the BB. Okay? And that is a gas gun. And it does 4 shots. Blang, 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 blang. That's how it works. So it's not time. Time may not affect it, but it might do. Now let's think about the grades of rubber. How do you know what BBs someone else is going to use? You lend your mate the gun, you know, do you think he's going to use the best BBs? You don't know. Short burst, long burst? You don't know. How many BBs can go through that rubber before you get a problem? Well, generally speaking, a lot of airsoft manufacturers, they do specify that it should be around 2,000 to 3,000 rounds, and you should then lubricate things up. But there is no way of determining whether or not you've got a bad BB. What if you get one bad BB? It gets stuck in the machine while it's being filtered through and put in all the pots. You wouldn't know it, but there could be a little dent on it. That goes through and catches something. More ammo flies through it. There goes your rubber. So, short bursts are better for the longevity of the gun. Despite the fact that you think it should be longer bursts because of the heat. The way they're built is very, very, very clever. But they're not designed to be running mad amounts of ammo. It is up to the owner and or the user to make sure it's maintained. You must make sure it's maintained. If you don't look after your guns, they're going to break. And that's the end of it. That is why most places you buy a hot rubber from somewhere and then they say, sorry mate, you know, yes, I'm sorry your hot rubber tore, but yeah, there's no warranty. You can tell what's a crap hot rubber and what isn't. I can tell that's crap. Look at the way it's cut. Look at that. Look how badly made that is. Are you going to trust that rubber in your gun? No! Would I put it in a rental gun? Yeah. Because I reckon I can get those at £1 each. You know? It doesn't matter. The final point I'm going to make is if you're going to go out and buy an airsoft gun, firstly, it doesn't matter if no one else likes the look of the gun. If you like it, that's all that matters. You want to spend £1,000, £1,200, £800 on a gun? Do it. There is every chance that that gun won't make it through one fucking skirmish. Because that's the nature of the beast. That's just how it is. It sucks, doesn't it? It totally sucks. Do you think you get warranties on these things any other place? No. But we're used to warranties. So we, you know, something goes wrong, you got to eat it. You're eating that shit with a big fucking spoon and a fucking smile on your face. If you are new to airsoft, if this is something you're only just really getting into it, you're not spending a lot of time researching it, you're just going onto one of those fucking Facebook groups and going, hi there, I've just bought a G&G thingy-me-bob, and I also know what your views are of it. Or, I'm new to airsoft and I would like to get this gun fully upgraded. I turn down a lot of those jobs. 2 reasons. If someone's reasonably new to airsoft, you don't need a modified gun. You want to use a standard gun and learn how it works. End of. End of. Because the videos you see on the internet are mostly bollocks. People break shit. It's not fair to sell somebody or make somebody something worth a lot of money when they are not experienced enough to understand how it works. You wouldn't go out, you pass your driving test when you're 17, and then you go and sit in a Formula 1 car and off you go. You wouldn't do that. You know that's not sensible. You know that's not sensible. But you do it. People do that shit, and it's the same with airsoft. You don't need an upgraded gun. You need to learn how it works. You need to know that everything you see on the internet is not true. It's not true. What happens when you spam the trigger on an airsoft gun? Now, version 2 and version 3 gearboxes are the most common airsoft gearboxes you'll come across. M4s, MP5s, G3s are version 2. AKs, Steyr Augs, G36s, version 3. These are the most common gearbox types. The version 3 is a more stable and solid platform. The version 2 is less prone to semi-auto failure. Gift and a curse. What happens if you spam the trigger? Now, that is the first time I've ever fired this gun. This is mine. This is my AMD65. It's a Golden Eagle. It's full metal. That means it's good. I've never tested it. I just wanted an AMD65. I'm actually going to take this off because I hate it. And I'm going to fucking keep it just like that. But I don't know how this gun fires. I know nothing about it. I've never taken it apart. I know it's brand spanking new and it's mine. I've never even set the hop. That was literally the first shot I've ever fucking fired through it. Ever. A BB didn't even come out. I don't know what the power is. Nothing. What happens if I spam the trigger? This is a brand new gun, unmodified. Not every single one of those shots worked, did it? Watch this, ready? Does that sound good? Do you think the gun likes that? That's fucking crying inside now. It fucking hates that. It fucking hates it. If you spam your trigger, you get problems. Full auto. When you spam the trigger, wow. Okay, the wires on that are fucking hot. And the wires here are even hotter. The motor is not. No, I can't feel any warmth there at all. But let's see what happens on my brand spanking new, fresh out the box AMD65 if I go. Now we've got warmth. Now that will start to resonate and come through because obviously it's stuck inside. These wires are warm. These are fucking hot. When you spam your trigger, you're going to cause problems. You have to wait for your gun to fire. You have to wait. Again, this is 12 volts. You have to wait for the gun to fire. Oh, hear that? Hear that crunch? Did you hear that crunch? Right there was a crunch. I'm going to try it. Hopefully I've got that in the video. That means that something wasn't right. Now it's a brand spanking new gun. It shouldn't have a crunch sound like that, fucking surely. It's brand new. Why would it crunch like that? Why? Big long burst, mate. That's why. Semi-auto. You have to see how long it takes for the gun to cycle. I reckon I can go faster. But if you go too fast, there it is. That's it. Now it's locked. Yep. That's done something. Oh, fucking hell. Something mechanical has happened there that I can't get the trigger all the way back every single time. So what I've done there is I've spammed it and I broke it. If I send that back to the retailer, here mate, this is only fucking couple of weeks old mate. What the fuck? You fucking sold me something, it's no fucking good. Retailer can't prove it. I could literally take this back and go, not fit for purpose, you mug. Fucking mugging me off, you muggy cunt. Good night. The reality is, I fucking broke it. I broke it because I was acting like a cunt with the gun. I broke it. Now, I razz at the retailers quite a lot, alright? Because I see a load of dodgy shit that goes on. But I'm also on their side as well, because part of my job is to figure out what the fuck did that. I'll be honest, there is no way that anyone can figure out how that gun broke from what I just did unless they fucking saw it. Unless they saw it. Now, normally, with the full auto, that should free it up. But there's nothing. The fuse hasn't blown. I can see it's intact because I was getting some power occasionally. So I know that it's not that. I know it's not the fuse. But I've just acted like a wanker and I've broke it. And do you know what? The retailers have to pay for that. He will. You can't prove it. Retailer can't prove it. You've got to go by what they say. Unless you see it happen with your own fucking eyes. Now, I can diagnose 95% of most problems by finding little issues, going the way through it, and then just making a timeline of events of how that is caused. That is really coming warm now. I might unplug that just in case something really fucked up happened. So, you've got to learn that your gun needs to be treated with respect. Now, this is a standard gun. These retail about 150 quid. Full metal AK, 150 quid. Can't go fucking wrong. And it seems like it'd be a good base platform. Now, you saw that before, right? This is a brand new gun, and it's broke. You'd believe that review, wouldn't you? You'd go, I wouldn't buy a fucking Golden Eagle AK. Not in your life. People didn't buy the Barry Burton fucking WE Beretta because every single one exploded at the back. Because one guy did a test video where the back came off. Now, for a good 3 years after that happened, I never fucking saw a single Barry Burton Biohazard fucking WE Beretta break with the back flying off. I never saw it. Eventually, I did see it. I saw it a good few times. But the amount of times that people have been using them for a long time with no problems, if I were to put up that review of the AMD 65 saying it's brand new, fresh out the box, and I chopped it exactly how you saw it, you wouldn't buy that gun, you'd say it was terrible. But now you've seen the reality of what you can do to a gun to break it. You've fucking seen it. With your own eyes. Fucked. Something's broken. Why did it break? Because I was a prick with it. Understand that retailers, they make fuck all money on these. I used to get paid 25 quid an hour to fix the retailer's guns. And I can promise you, if they're selling this gun for 150 quid, they've probably paid about 90 quid for it. That's not a great deal of markup, and they've got to pay me £25 and fund for parts as well to fix it, because some cunt acted like a cunt. Not on, is it? Imagine that's you. Imagine you're in their shoes. Okay? You lend your mate a gun, he goes running around. Remember! He comes back, gun don't work, mate. Now, everyone's got mates who they trust, but you don't leave them at home with your wife, do you? You wouldn't do it, just in case. You can't leave them next to your pint in your wallet, because they're your mates and you trust them, but you don't really, do you? So, you have to go with what you're told. Anything can go wrong with an airsoft gun. It's up to the user to treat them with the respect they deserve and the respect they command. This is here as information. Do with it as you will. But remember, you can break anything if you try hard enough. And this is not a response to anyone else's videos. This is not a response to any comments. I just happened upon a thread on Facebook today that I couldn't get out of my mind. I couldn't get it out of my mind. Like, someone's doing their nut because their gun isn't working, and some people are taking the piss out of them because it's a shit gun, which it is, it's a neutral. But from the guy's description of events, he didn't use the gun correctly. And it is his fault it broke. It is. And people were convincing him to do his nut at the retailer, and it's like, well, from what I can see with my experiences and what I know, I'm pretty sure you broke that gun, dude. Would another gun have broken if he'd plugged his 11.1 into a fucking GMP? Would it have broken as quickly if he'd done big long bursts or he fucking spammed it? Maybe. Maybe not. Just because I think Nuprol's shit, because they are shit. If you mistreat it, that's what's going to happen. The Nuprol is there for a reason. It's there for the newer players who want to get into the sport. And for that purpose, perfect. Just think about it. Mull it over in your head. I'm going for my dinner. Night.